Welcome to Mason Conservation District's Rain Garden Workshop. Throughout this video, we'll be discussing the designing, planting, and maintenance of a rain garden. Before we begin, let's talk about what a rain garden is. A rain garden is an area that is landscaped to collect, absorb, and filter stormwater runoff from rooftops, driveways, or other hard surfaces. When it rains or snows, more water flows from these hard surfaces than undisturbed areas, carrying oil, fertilizers, pesticides, and other pollutants downstream. These pollutants find their way into streams and the Puget Sound and are damaging to water resources and harmful to aquatic life. Simply put, rain gardens are shallow depressions that can be shaped in size to fit your yard, are constructed with soil mixes that allow water to soak in rapidly, treat runoff, and support plant growth, and can be landscaped with a variety of plants to fit the surroundings. There are 4 main steps to creating a rain garden: plan, build, plant, and maintain. Generally, the best time to build a rain garden is in the summer so that it's ready to be planted in the fall. The best time to plant is in the fall as it allows trees and vegetation to establish during the rainy winter months. Before you decide the location for your garden, make sure to call 811 to find where the utilities are located. Next, check the property for where water will drain from. It's important to place your garden in a location that can receive runoff to absorb and filter. It's ideal if the garden is lower in elevation than surfaces from which they will receive runoff. If on an incline, it's best if slope is between 2 and 6%. Choosing a location with well-draining, sandy soil is optimal. You can check your soil texture by squeezing some in your hand. If it's gritty and does not hold its shape, the soil is sandy. You can then check the soil drainage by test hole. Dig a small hole about 2 feet deep and 1 to 2 feet in diameter. Place a measuring stick in the hole, add water, and time how long it takes for the water to drain. This can take a while, so we recommend you start in the morning. A good location will have greater than 1 inch of water infiltration per hour. Once you've chosen where your garden will be, it's time to decide the size of it. Some good guiding questions to ask yourself are: how well does your soil drain? How much area will drain to the rain garden? How much rainfall does your location receive? How much water do you want the rain garden to hold? And how much room do you have for your rain garden? You can use this sizing chart to help you as well. Mason County is comprised of Regions 4, 5, and 6, with Shelton being in Region 4. Determine where the inflow and outflow will be. Water can be delivered to your rain garden across a landscaped area, through an open swale with plants and decorative rock, or through a pipe. Whatever technique is used, consider the slope and protect against erosion. Once it's time to start building, first lay out an outline of the garden. You can use a variety of materials to do this, including rope, a hose, or ground painting. Next, it's time to excavate. Make sure you have called 811 before digging. You can do many things with the excavated soil, such as using it to build a berm around your garden, use it for another project in the yard, add compost for a vegetable garden, or pay to dump it. The rain garden soil mix should be at least 18 inches deep to provide water quality treatment. The soil should also be placed dry and have minimal compaction during and after the soil placement. A soil with 35 to 40% compost, 60 to 65% sand that is well draining and designed to hold some moisture is preferred. Mulch is a great thing to add to your garden to help keep weeds down and retain moisture. A coarse and woody mulch with no bark is recommended, and arborist mulch is a great option. Now it's time to add plants to your rain garden. Choosing the right plants for your region and for the different zones of your garden is important. A rain garden is broken into different sections, which are referred to as Zone 1, 2, and 3. Zone 1 is the bottom of the rain garden, which is the wettest area. Zone 2 covers the side slopes, which occasionally may become wet. This zone also requires some plants to help stabilize the slopes. Zone 3 covers the area around the perimeter of the rain garden and/or on the berm where plants will grow in drier soil. Consider a mix of deciduous and evergreen plants for your rain garden to provide all-season interest. Carefully choose plants with their mature size in mind. If your garden is underneath power lines, make sure you are complying with maximum tree height requirements. If your garden is at the end of a driveway or by a road, ensure the mature plants won't block the vision of drivers. Also consider incorporating a diversity of plants, including small trees, shrubs, herbs, emergents, and grasses. This will give your garden year-round seasonal color and interesting differences in height and texture. You might also consider plants that will benefit native wildlife. Native plants are great as they are already adapted to the region and will use less water and require less maintenance once established. If you are participating in MCD's 2020 Rain Garden program, the following plants will be provided to you for your garden. If you are not a participant in this program, these plants would still be great options if you live in Western Washington. Let's begin with plants that are well suited for Zone 1. Slender rush are 6 to 24 inches tall with an equal spread. This rush forms densely tufted clumps of erect, round stems with basal, medium green leaves that are flat and narrow. They have clusters of small, greenish-brown florets and blooms between April and May. 1 foot of spacing is recommended when planting. Pacific Ninebark is also a Zone 1 plant. At maturity, this plant will be 10 to 15 feet tall. They have arching branches that hold small white flower clusters. We recommend a 6-foot spacing when planting. Seathrift is a lovely ground cover that will enjoy the conditions of Zone 2. It will form grassy mounds from 2 to 5 inches high with rounded flower heads on stems that range from 6 to 12 inches tall. This plant should have 1 foot spacing from other plants. Sword ferns will also grow well in Zone 2. This evergreen fern will grow to be 2 to 5 feet tall. It has dark green fronds that arch from a central clump. This plant prefers the shade, but can succeed in full sun if well watered. Sword ferns should have about 2 feet of spacing. Another Zone 2 plant is snowberry. This outstanding shrub will grow to be 5 to 10 feet tall. It has bright white berries that are especially ornamental after the leaves drop. Plant this with about 3 feet of spacing. Tufted hairgrass is great for Zone 2 and is about 1 foot tall. This ornamental grass grows well in part shade and has fine green-blue blades. It also provides food and habitat for wildlife such as insects and birds. About 8 inches of spacing for this plant is recommended. Tufted red flowering currant grows best in drier locations, making it a great plant for Zone 3. It can be 3 to 10 feet tall. Hummingbirds are attracted to the pale pink to deep red flowers that bloom from March to June. We recommend 3 feet of spacing for this plant. Nootka rose is another great plant for Zone 3. This shrub can be 3 to 8 feet tall. It grows clusters of large pink flowers and red fruit. It's another plant that is wonderful for wildlife habitat. 8 feet of spacing is best for this rose. Another plant for Zone 3 is creeping Oregon grape, which is 1 to 1.5 feet tall. This evergreen shrub has fragrant yellow flowers in the spring and purple berries in the fall. It provides vital nectar and pollen to native pollinators. 2 feet of spacing is recommended. Vine maple is well suited for Zone 3 and grows to be 15 to 25 feet tall. This deciduous shrub or small tree has tiny white and purple drooping flower clusters in the spring and has beautifully colored leaves in the fall. It provides good forage for wildlife and attracts butterflies. About 6 feet of spacing is recommended. For a more natural look, you might consider planting in clusters of 3 to 5 of the same plant type. For example, in this image, there are 4 red flowering currants planted in a group. You can refer to Mason Conservation District's website for more natural landscaping examples on the Conservation Landscaping page. Now that you've planted your rain garden, all that is left to do is enjoy its benefits and maintain it. Just like any garden, maintenance is required to make sure it looks good and is functioning properly. More frequent maintenance will be required for the first 2 to 3 years until the plants are well established. Pruning may also be needed in your garden, as some plants can get quite large. This can also encourage branching and more densely branched shrubs. You may need to replenish the mulch in your garden. Every year, check the mulch layer to make sure it maintains a depth of 2 to 3 inches. Spread mulch between plants and on bare ground. Mulch can be applied any time of year, but maintaining a sufficient mulch layer in the dry summer and rainy winter months is particularly beneficial. To establish healthy roots, your rain garden will need deep watering during the dry season for the first 1 to 3 years. Because you are using plants native to Western Washington, they should need little to no watering once established. However, watering may still be necessary during prolonged dry periods. For the first year or two, more weeding may be needed. Once your plants establish and start to knit together, there will be less space for weeds to grow. Rain gardens will soak up and filter stormwater even if there are weeds, but the plants will likely not grow as well due to competition. Avoid using fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides in or near your rain garden. There are nutrients in the soil mix, and the native species are adapted to growing in this region. It's also important to make sure all of the components of your rain garden continue to function properly. This chart provides great information for what to do if you notice something wrong occurring. This presentation includes information from the Rain Garden Handbook for Western Washington. This is a great resource if you are interested in learning more about the construction, planting, and maintenance of rain gardens. We hope that you enjoy your new garden and all of the benefits that it provides.